I'd like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Thanks to Skillshare, the first 299 people to click the link in the description will get their first 2 months for just 99 cents. It's no secret that an album's recording location can have a big impact on its sound. That's why so many studios have become legendary over the years, and names like Muscle Shoals, The Record Plant, and of course Abbey Road have been etched into music's collective unconscious. But for every great album recorded in an iconic studio, there's an equally great album recorded somewhere offbeat. From country houses to castles, music is full of unorthodox recording locations. Let's take a closer look at 3 locations that helped make music history. In 1967, Rick Danko was the bassist for Bob Dylan's backing band. A year earlier, Dylan had cancelled a tour and become a recluse in Woodstock, New York, after a motorcycle accident that nearly claimed his life. Danko found a house to rent in the nearby hamlet of West Saugerties, New York, where his bandmate Robbie Robertson had a place. In February 1967, Danko moved into the house with fellow bandmates Garth Hudson and Richard Manuel. The group, known then as the Hawks, nicknamed the house Big Pink after its pink siding. Living in Big Pink, they started doing some studio recording in Bob Dylan's home, but soon the recordings moved to the basement of Big Pink. In this time, the Hawks and Dylan were working on informal material, just having fun, recording a few new Dylan songs and a ton of covers and traditional pieces. Many of these recordings would be released years later in an album called The Basement Tapes. You can hear the relaxing, fun vibes of these recordings on a song like $1 Million Back.
A big dumb blonde with her wheel gorged, turtle a friend of hers with his checks all forged and his cheeks in a chunk. With his cheese and the cash, they all want to be there at that $1 Million Bash.
During this period, former drummer Levon Helm rejoined the Hawks, and they decided to rename themselves, taking up the moniker of The Band. With this new name, they started to record original material, written by Manuel and Robertson, as well as a few other pieces penned by Dylan. This material became the band's debut album, which they named after the house that birthed it. Music from Big Pink. The back cover of the album even featured a description of the house. A pink house seated in the sun of Overlook Mountain in West Saugerties, New York. Big Pink bore this music and these songs along its way. It's the first witness of this album that's been thought and composed right there inside its walls. Music from Big Pink was a roaring success and featured what may be the band's best known song to date, The Wait.
Take a load off Fanny, take a load for free, take a load off Fanny, and you put the load right on me.
A few years later, across the Atlantic, Led Zeppelin found their own house to make music history in. In 1970, the band set up camp in Headley Grange, a former poorhouse in Headley, England. Zeppelin weren't the first, nor were they the last to set up in Headley Grange. Acts like Bad Company, Fleetwood Mac, and Genesis all used it as a rehearsal space. The house didn't have many advantages. It was run down and cold, but it had one thing going for it. Nobody around had ever filed noise complaints for bands practicing. Not wanting to get interrupted in the middle of their workflow and having to move after noise complaints, Zeppelin realized this would be the perfect place for them to head to. In a 2010 interview with Mojo, Page explained why the band wanted to go to Headley Grange. The reason we went there in the first place was to have a live-in situation where you're writing and really living the music. We'd never really had that experience before as a group. The band wrote and recorded large parts of Led Zeppelin 3 there and loved it enough to go back on their next 3 studio albums. Some of their most famous songs have Headley Grange ties. Black Dog was named after a dog that they found hanging around the Grange during recording, and Robert Plant wrote almost all the lyrics of Stairway to Heaven in the Grange. But it's not just the stories. You can actually hear Headley Grange in one of Zeppelin's most iconic songs. The echoing, thunderous drums of When the Levee Breaks come thanks to the old poorhouse's architecture. The band set up John Bonham's drum kit in a giant 3-story hall in the building that had a staircase going up it. They stuck the microphone at the top of the stairs, and the result was one of the most famous drum sounds in rock history. Zeppelin would go on to use a number of other unorthodox recording places, including Clearwater Castle, a Gothic mansion in Gloucestershire. Built in 1727, Clearwater Castle was used as a rehearsal space for a number of bands throughout the 70s. Deep Purple recorded 2 albums there, Stormbringer and Burn, while Peter Frampton recorded his 1975 self-titled album there. But perhaps the most important visit to Clearwater Castle came in 1973. That's when Black Sabbath set up camp in the castle, returning to England after a series of writing sessions in California came up empty. The castle was a perfect venue to reignite Black Sabbath's creative flame. It was full of dark corners, medieval armor, and creepy atmosphere that matched Black Sabbath's metal sound. The band even had a run-in with a ghost in the castle, as Tony Iommi recalled to the Birmingham Mail. He said that himself, Geezer Butler, and Ozzy Osbourne were walking down the hallway when they saw a cloaked figure coming toward them. It turned into a room and they followed to investigate, only to have nobody there. The band leaned into this creepiness, recording in dungeons and armories to conjure up a new sound. It's in one of these dungeons that Tony Iommi wrote the guitar riff that the band credited with saving their careers, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. That song set the tone for their next album and became the title track, vaulting Black Sabbath back into success, and it never would have happened were it not for Clearwell. These are just a few of the locations that have helped shape music history, but their impact is indisputable. There's dozens more buildings that have continued to influence music in the years since, and new ones that are having their impact each passing year. But those stories are for another time. I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Thanks to Skillshare, the first 299 people to click the link in the description will get their first 2 months for just 99 cents. Whether you want to learn how to start your own business, to take up a new hobby, or just to broaden your horizons, Skillshare have got you covered. With a sprawling database featuring over 19,000 courses, Skillshare can help you learn that thing you've always wanted to do. If you're looking for somewhere to start, why not try Learn Video Editing with Premiere Pro CC for beginners? That course will teach you many of the skills I use to make the video you just watched. And if that's not your cup of tea, why not try Emily Gould's 10-day writing challenge that'll help you become a better writer in your everyday life. And it's not just those, Skillshare has thousands more courses designed to help you learn a new skill. Again, the first 299 people to click the link below will get their first 2 months for just 99 cents, and after that it's just $10 a month. So go now and get the tools you need to meet your personal goals.